The Jedi Order's history is marked by adherence to discipline, control, and a strict hierarchy, embodied by the Jedi Council on Coruscant. However, some of the most significant moments in galactic history arose when individual Jedi Masters chose to defy the Council. Their defiance, rooted in profound moral and philosophical disagreements, shaped the fate of the galaxy in ways that still echo through the Force. These moments of rebellion reflected not only the flaws in the Jedi Council's rigidity, but also the enduring complexity of the Force itself. Mace Windu's defiance stands as one of the most dramatic and fateful examples. Known for his unwavering loyalty to the Jedi Order, Windu nonetheless acted decisively against the Council's usual caution when confronting Chancellor Palpatine. As the Sith Lord's machinations became undeniable, the Council's hesitancy clashed with Windu's belief that immediate action was required. Against protocol, he attempted to neutralize Palpatine, going so far as to prepare for an extrajudicial execution. This bold act, though aimed at protecting the Republic, diverged sharply from the Jedi's principles of restraint and highlighted the tension between protecting peace and preserving justice. It also exposed the Council's inability to address the Sith threat in a decisive and unified manner. Anakin Skywalker, Windu's contemporary, defied the Jedi Council for reasons that were far more personal and tragic. Raised with unorthodox attachments and thrust into the role of the Chosen One, Anakin found himself increasingly alienated from the Order's expectations. The Council's decision to place him on the Council without granting him the rank of Master was emblematic of their mistrust. Combined with his desperate need to save his wife Padme Amidala from death, a need the Council dismissed, Anakin's defiance turned into outright betrayal. While his fall to the dark side is often framed as a moral failing, it also underscores the Council's inability to adapt its teachings to the unique challenges posed by Anakin's life. His tragedy is a lesson in how rigidity can drive even the most powerful Jedi away from their ideals. Count Dooku's defiance followed a different trajectory. Long before his descent into darkness as Darth Tyrannus, Dooku became disillusioned with the Jedi Council's entanglement with the corrupt Senate. His decision to leave the Order entirely was not born of ambition but of frustration with the Council's unwillingness to confront the galaxy's growing injustices. As a Jedi, Dooku sought reform and action, but the Council's passivity left him disheartened. Though his eventual alliance with Darth Sidious clouded his legacy, his initial departure highlighted legitimate flaws in the Jedi Order's philosophy and governance. Dooku's story illustrates the dangers of inaction and the vulnerability of those who seek answers outside the bounds of tradition. Ahsoka Tano, though not a Jedi Master, represents one of the most poignant examples of defiance. Falsely accused of terrorism within the Jedi Temple, Ahsoka was abandoned by the Council, which prioritized its relationship with the Republic over loyalty to one of its own. Even after her name was cleared, Ahsoka refused to return to the Order, citing its betrayal of her trust. Her departure was a significant blow to the Jedi, as it exposed their growing disconnection from their own values. Ahsoka's journey thereafter, as an independent Force user and warrior for justice, demonstrated that the Jedi way was not the only path to serving the light. Her defiance was a critique of the Council's increasing entanglement in politics and its failure to protect its own ideals. Revan, the legendary Jedi Knight, offers one of the most profound examples of defiance in the Order's history. Faced with the devastating Mandalorian Wars, Revan led a faction of Jedi in direct contradiction to the Council's decree of non-intervention. While the Council feared that participation in the war would lead to the Jedi's corruption, Revan saw their inaction as a betrayal of the Republic they were sworn to protect. Though his eventual fall to the dark side complicated his legacy, Revan's actions forced the Jedi to confront their own moral failures. His defiance exemplified the difficulty of balancing moral conviction with adherence to authority, and his story continues to serve as a cautionary tale about the cost of neglecting urgent crises. Luke Skywalker's journey, though removed from the traditional Jedi Council of Coruscant, was one of reinvention and defiance. As the last Jedi after the fall of the Empire, Luke sought to rebuild the Order, but he did so by challenging many of the principles that had guided his predecessors. Unlike the old Order, Luke emphasized compassion, personal connections, and flexibility over strict discipline. His willingness to embrace attachment and his belief in the redemptive power of love placed him at odds with the teachings of Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi. By reinterpreting the role of the Jedi in a changing galaxy, Luke ensured that the Order could evolve beyond its historical limitations. Even Yoda, often seen as the embodiment of Jedi wisdom, demonstrated moments of quiet defiance. In the final years of the Republic, Yoda began to question the Council's growing entanglement in politics and its failure to foresee the Sith's return. His decision to train Luke Skywalker on Dagobah, away from the influence of the Council's past, was a subtle but significant departure from tradition. Yoda's acknowledgement of the Order's failings and his willingness to adapt ensured that the Jedi's legacy could endure, even after the institution itself was destroyed. Master Kreia, a controversial figure in Jedi history, represents the philosophical extremes of defiance. Exiled from the Order for her association with Revan, Kreia's teachings and worldview challenged the very foundations of Jedi orthodoxy. Her belief that the Force itself could be a manipulative force, rather than a purely benevolent one, placed her in conflict with both the Jedi and Sith. While her actions often veered into moral ambiguity, Kreia's defiance was rooted in a search for deeper truths about the galaxy and the nature of power. Her story serves as a reminder of the dangers and potential insights that come from questioning the established order. These Jedi Masters, and those like Ahsoka and Revan, who operated outside strict titles, each defied the Council in ways that reshaped the galaxy. Their defiance was not born out of arrogance or malice, but from the conviction that the Council's rigidity often failed to meet the needs of a galaxy in turmoil. In each case, their actions illuminated the flaws in the Jedi Order, whether through its entanglement in politics, its failure to adapt to new challenges, or its inability to embrace the complexities of the Force. Through their stories, we see the enduring tension between tradition and innovation, authority and individuality, order and chaos. These Jedi, by challenging the very institution that defined them, not only revealed its weaknesses but also its potential for growth. Their defiance, whether leading to triumph or tragedy, serves as a testament to the complexity of the Force and the enduring struggle to balance personal conviction with collective responsibility. The actions of these Jedi Masters, while disruptive to the Order's stability, were often driven by a profound connection to the Force and an understanding of the galaxy's shifting dynamics. This defiance, though it sometimes led to catastrophic outcomes, also paved the way for significant growth and transformation within the Jedi Order and beyond. Mace Windu's choice to take matters into his own hands during his confrontation with Palpatine was not an isolated incident of the Council being bypassed. It reflected a recurring theme. When Jedi perceived the Council's measured approach as inadequately responsive to immediate dangers, they felt compelled to act independently. Windu's decision underscored the tension between the Jedi's guiding principles and the necessity of practical action in moments of crisis. His failure to subdue Palpatine and the subsequent fallout demonstrated both the dangers of isolated defiance and the broader consequences of a Council unprepared to confront the realities of the Sith's resurgence. Anakin Skywalker's journey into darkness revealed another, more tragic dimension to defiance. Anakin's grievances against the Council were not entirely unjustified. The Jedi's insistence on emotional detachment and their suspicion of his power alienated him, driving him to seek understanding and agency elsewhere. His turn to the dark side was a stark reminder that the Council's inflexibility and inability to adapt to individual needs could have devastating consequences. Had the Jedi been more willing to accommodate Anakin's unique circumstances, his fate, and the fate of the galaxy might have been very different. His story stands as a cautionary tale about the perils of ignoring personal struggles in the pursuit of collective ideals. Ahsoka Tano, by contrast, showed how defiance could lead to personal empowerment and moral clarity. Her departure from the Order was a repudiation of the Council's failure to uphold its own values, but it also freed her to pursue her path as an agent of justice outside the constraints of Jedi dogma. Her role in the galaxy following her departure, helping to organize the rebellion against the Empire and later mentoring young Force users, demonstrated that the principles of the Jedi could thrive beyond the institutional framework of the Order. Ahsoka's legacy is one of resilience and adaptability, proving that adherence to the light side of the Force does not require unquestioning loyalty to the Jedi Council. Revan's defiance during the Mandalorian Wars highlighted a different facet of rebellion. Unlike those who were driven by emotional conflict or personal betrayal, Revan's motivations were strategic and ideological. His belief that the Jedi were obligated to intervene in the Mandalorian aggression was rooted in his conviction that inaction was tantamount to complicity. Although his defiance led him to the dark side, it also brought to light the limitations of the Council's pacifism in the face of existential threats. Revan's story is a reminder of the complexity of moral decision-making in times of war, where the lines between right and wrong are often blurred. Luke Skywalker's defiance of traditional Jedi principles marked a generational shift in how the Order was perceived and practiced. Unlike the Masters of the Old Council, Luke was unbound by centuries of tradition, which allowed him to forge a new path for the Jedi. His willingness to embrace personal connections, as demonstrated by his refusal to give up on redeeming Darth Vader, was a direct challenge to the Jedi dogma that forbade attachment. Luke's actions not only saved his father, but also highlighted the transformative power of love and compassion, virtues the Jedi Council had long undervalued. By defying the old ways, Luke ensured that the Jedi Order could evolve to meet the needs of a changing galaxy. Yoda's subtle defiance, particularly in his later years, reflected the wisdom of experience and the willingness to adapt. As the leader of the Jedi Council during the Clone Wars, Yoda bore much of the responsibility for the Order's failures. However, his exile on Dagobah and subsequent training of Luke Skywalker signified a turning point. Yoda's decision to focus on Luke's potential, rather than strictly adhering to the Jedi Code, demonstrated his understanding that the survival of the Jedi required flexibility and a willingness to embrace change. His quiet rebellion against the traditions of the Old Order was instrumental in ensuring that the Jedi could endure beyond their institutional collapse. Count Dooku's path, though ultimately leading to darkness, began with an earnest critique of the Jedi Order's failings. His departure was rooted in disillusionment with the Council's inability to act decisively against the corruption of the Republic. While Dooku's alliance with Darth Sidious revealed the dangers of unchecked ambition, his initial defiance highlighted the importance of addressing systemic flaws within the Jedi Order. Dooku's story serves as a warning of how easily idealism can be corrupted when the structures meant to uphold justice fail to adapt to the galaxy's evolving needs. Master Kria's philosophical defiance pushed the boundaries of what it meant to be a Jedi or a Sith. By rejecting the binaries of light and dark, Kria challenged the very foundations of the Force itself. Her critique of the Jedi Order's reliance on dogma and the Sith's obsession with power offered a unique perspective on the dangers of extremism. Kria's defiance was not driven by ambition or rebellion for its own sake, but by a desire to uncover deeper truths about the Force and its influence on the galaxy. Though her methods and beliefs were controversial, her legacy remains a testament to the importance of questioning authority and exploring new perspectives. These Jedi and Force-sensitive figures shared a common thread. Their defiance stemmed not from a desire for power or control, but from a profound belief that the Council, in its rigidity, was failing to serve the galaxy or the Force effectively. Their actions, whether heroic, tragic, or somewhere in between, forced the Jedi Order to confront its own shortcomings. By challenging tradition, they illuminated the potential for growth and change, ensuring that the ideals of the Jedi could endure even when the institution itself faltered. Ultimately, the stories of these figures serve as a reminder that defiance is not inherently destructive. When rooted in conviction and guided by the light of the Force, defiance can become a catalyst for transformation, breaking down outdated structures and paving the way for renewal. These Jedi Masters and others like them demonstrated that questioning authority and embracing change are not signs of weakness but of strength. In their defiance, they found the courage to act, the wisdom to adapt, and the vision to see beyond the limitations of tradition, ensuring that the Jedi's legacy could continue to inspire future generations.